So we're in the midst of a book study called What's in the Way is the Way. The assumption of that is that we have a sense of well-being and completion within each one of us. Everything really is okay, but there's a bunch of stuff that's layered over what we experience that gets in the way. And what we need is to sweep away those clouds. The cloud that we're talking about this week is fear. Fear obscures, interferes with a lot of the clear spiritual and mental and emotional processing that we're created to do. Yeah. How do you get rid of fear? Through the power of thought. And one of the most powerful thoughts we can hold is a thought of gratitude. So we don't usually think of gratitude as a way of dealing with fear, but it works. Donna's going to share some thoughts about that with us today.
Yes, I am.
Have Donna with us today.
So yes, fear. That it's interesting because that's how I came to Unity. I was a person full of fear, and I was told that I had to go talk to this Unity minister who was in Chesterland, and I thought, I'm Catholic, that's never going to happen. So then I talked about my fear more with friends, and they said, geez, you got to go talk to this Unity minister. She's in Chesterland. And again, I thought, not going to happen. And then I went off the road. Interestingly enough, I didn't go in the ditch. My car literally flew over the ditch, and I wasn't going fast. I just hit ice, and I landed. Whoops, I'm not going to hit the thing. I landed, boom, in this yard. And I was crying and fearful and spoke to this elderly woman who was probably my age now. And I was telling her, oh my gosh, and this is my husband's new company car, and all money, it's going to cost so much. And she says, honey, you have to go talk to this Unity minister in Chesterland. And that's how I came to Unity. Yeah. I finally said, okay. So, it's like what Reverend Nat said. What is your okay? What is your okay to working on and giving up your fear? Because we all have to answer that question. It's whoever you are and wherever you may be, the golden key to harmony is in your hand now. Stop thinking about difficulty, whatever it is, think about God instead. And that's Emmett Fox. And I can remember being taught to just think about God. And it's actually very simple because all the gifts are from Spirit. And in John 6:3, it says, it is the Spirit that gives life. So we start to understand that Spirit is what gives us life, and to think about God. So even if you're feeling physically crippled by fear, if you can train your mind to just think about God and know that God is love. This was one of Reverend Roy's favorite lines, Luke 12:32. It says, fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So to understand as we're going through life, we co-create this spiritual kingdom that we live in. And we feel the spiritual purity flowing through us. And that's what the idea is to stay open to hold your head up high in all that you're going through, to allow the Spirit to come through your very being, to enlighten every cell of your body. I think I remember reading about that with Myrtle Fillmore, that she sent healing energy to every cell of her body. Just knowing that that would be so. And to understand that in gratitude, the healing happened. To know that she was, I think I'm going to use the word worthy. Because I think a lot of times when we're praying for something, whether it's prosperity or whether it's healing or whether it's for another person, sometimes we just don't feel worthy enough. Sometimes we let fear own who we are. And you're studying what is the way, what's in the way is the way. I love that. And Reverend Nat and I talked about fear. I love this line, the slow drip of insecurity. When we're fearful, it's just a drip of insecurity. We're afraid to look at our fear. We feel shame. You know, a lot of times in New Thought, everybody has to, I remember when I was new, the word was cancel. So anytime Pat remembers, anytime you were afraid, they go, cancel, cancel, cancel. And I'd be going, the hell are you talking? I'm feeling afraid. And now I understand. The part of my ministry is people coming to me and telling me the truth. Because I'm not trying to make it anything but where you are. So not to be ashamed of where we are. Not to understand that we have to run away from where we are. Fear versus getting to know fear. So to stop, to look, to listen. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? To open our hearts, to not hide, to be born again in the presence. It's allowing our heart to heal us. So when anything comes that you're afraid of, it's just to stop, to go to the heart space, to listen to what your essence is telling you, to know that fear will pass. You've all heard this too shall pass. To begin to feel the empowerment of well-being. Sometimes when we're new, when I was young, okay, there we go to the young person in the group. When I was young, I felt things so intently, and I didn't think I was even looking for healing. So that these feelings didn't fall into this too shall pass because I wasn't looking for that. And then I realized the empowerment of well-being. That don't be afraid. To understand, this is a great line, to understand that fear happens within the greater space that is not afraid. Think about that. Fear happens, and it can be strong, in the greater space that is not afraid. So what is our greater space? What is that greater space within us? It's our well-being, and it's the trust in the Christ within. It's amazing when we pick up that idea that we literally carry the Christ within. So that anything that's in us, not to be afraid of it, but to trust the Christ within. As the answer came to me, flying off the road, it was right on Wilson Mills, flying off the road over the ditch. And I had to land like this because that's what it takes to, you know. And to have this darling older woman, as I'm representing today, let me know that there was a way out. To let me know that there was a way out, and the way out was to trust the Christ within. And you know, I had this vision of looking within. Originally, when people said, look within, I just had my body type. I just thought looking within was like the size of my body. To understand, all of a sudden, I had this vision that looking within was a vast space of empowerment. So that when asked to look within, I was looking at this Christ that was a vast space of empowerment. To know that it's inner strength. And through every situation, even if we think it's crippling, that there's an answer. And not to let our thoughts get clogged with doubt and fear. Believe it or not, that's a familiar way of living sometimes. And sometimes it's hard to give up. Because that's how we live. So in the silence, which Charles Fillmore encouraged, in the silence is where we enter our heart space. And in the silence, in that heart space, we start to feel this vast power. You know, we experience the 12 powers. We won't go into those today, but we experience all the powers. And if you get to know the 12 powers and know where they are in your body, and of course, we'll do the simple one, love. When you know the 12 powers, you can sit in silence and you can visit those powers that are within you, that are recognized as a way out. So gratitude is one of the ways we heal from this fear. I can remember thinking, oh, if we only could have this, if we only could have that, and then we'd get it. And then guess what? Well, if we could only have this and we could only have that. And so finally, you surrender to that attitudinal healing that you have to go through. And attitudinal healing is from Dr. Jerry Jampolsky. Does anybody know his work? Love is Letting Go of Fear. I went to visit him in California, take lessons to facilitate groups. And it was amazing to be there because they served people who were in pretty serious straits. They were sick. And I just had so much fun there. And there was a kid who was in a wheelchair. He had red hair, so he reminded me of John when he was young. And so I went over to talk to him. And he said, well, you'll have to forgive me because, you know, I have something with his brain. He may have had a tumor or whatever. And he said, so I'll tell you something and then I'll forget and then I'll repeat it. I said, oh, that's right up my alley. because I'm going to tell you something and then I'll repeat it. So we just had so much fun because, really healing is accepting. Healing isn't fixing. But to heal, you have to accept yourself first because you can't accept someone else until you accept yourself. And to do the 12 principles of attitudinal healing is a whole workshop. But just to give you an overview of what that means when you're bringing fear into attitudinal healing. And the first line I love is the essence of our being is love. So whether you're going into your own fear, if you're helping someone else face their fear, if you're just hanging around, the essence of who you are is love. And then to know that health is inner peace. So as we're trying to fix people, arms, legs, whatever we're doing, it's inner peace. So when I walk in a room, I used to do a lot of healing visits. I don't do that so much anymore. But of course, it was in hospitals or wherever I was. It was a giving and receiving. It was just a giving and receiving. And I had a nurse come into the room. She had a girl who was a young girl who was very sick. And she said, I see you're here. And it was for a Unity person who, by the way, did not want me there and made it obvious. So I'm there, and the nurse comes in, and she said, could you go talk to that young girl? And I said, yes, because my mother told me I could talk to anybody. So I went in, and it was interesting because her mother was there and didn't speak English, but she watched me. And I went to the young girl, and we talked about healing and wholeness and love and just being there, just a giving and receiving exchange. And the power in that healing. I found out later that she was in McDonald House, the children's house. What is it? Rainbow. No, she wasn't in the hospital Rainbow. She went to the place where they live, when Ronald McDonald House. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. So I found out that they moved here because I was back praying for the woman who didn't want me there. Anyway, that's another story. And I said, well, what's the story? She had 9 tumors and she was healed of it. Now, mind you, the mother didn't speak English. I didn't know what was wrong. I was in the other room with someone else. So a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I want to be a healer. You already are. We all are. Because of the first step of attitudinal healing, the essence of our being is love. That's all it takes. To forgive instead of judge. To be love finders rather than fault finders. I love that for attitudinal healing. I think sometimes we're trained to be fault finders. I remember not wanting to have people think I was in denial. I wanted them to know I knew what was wrong. Because God forbid they should think I'm in denial. Then I realized, oh my gosh, Donna, that's not what you want to teach. So we go through life and we have stumbling blocks. And, that's interesting because sometimes we look at our spiritual leaders or we look at people in our life, our children. We have lack of faith in the inner realm of our supply. We have stumbling blocks. We lack the faith in ourselves. We misuse the power of imagination. To worry about your children is not a good thing. Our power of imagination should be how powerful they are and how they have the answers. And yet, many times we find ourselves with our thoughts clogged with doubt and fear. True healing is in the mind. And that's why unity is so important to so many of us, because it actually has classes on how to bring healing to the mind and the heart, and then the body will follow. So as we go through our time here this morning, I want us to look at ourselves as who we truly are. We're vessels of love. We are perfection, wholeness, and health. It's in our consciousness to be that. That in Matthew 19:26, it says, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. So as we look at our life, and John and I have had many times that we've looked at our life and we really have felt this is impossible. And then it wasn't. And we've been taught over and over again that it's not man that really heals things. If man walks in to heal, it's gratitudinal healing. It's someone that walks in with a love and a light. How do you become light? You allow it to come into your being. You allow your being to speak to every cell. You begin to carry it. I used to test this out with babies in the grocery store when I was learning this stuff. And I would just, fill myself with light and God and love and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd look at the baby and I'd say, you see me, right? And they'd go, uh-huh. I was sharing with someone that there was a family. I became friends with the mother, and the family wasn't getting along. Like no one was getting along. The brothers, and then the daughter with the mother, which I can relate to. So I thought, well, like I'm new in her life. I'm not, So what I did was consciously, when I was around, just become the light. And that family, without any words or help from me, is healed, whole, and healthy, and loving each other and traveling with each other and being in each other's life. So our work is before us. So it's kind of up to us if we're willing to say yes to life. if we're willing to be the healers that we say we want to be, if we're willing to face our fears so that when someone comes to us and they're fearful, you don't judge them, you're compassionate. To understand what's in the way is the way. That fear is the slow drip of insecurity. We don't have to be insecure. We trust the Christ within. We are powerful beings, awake, alive, enthusiastic, happy. You know, it's hard sometimes to be happy in these tough times. You know, I'm not an airy-fairy kind of girl. I know current events. I know what's happening. And you know what? It's big. So what does that require of us? The power that is within us is equally big. And so we can face our fears and turn them into blessings for our brothers and sisters, but most of all, to turn them into blessings for us. And so it is. And so it is. So now is our time to relax into our chairs, and if you wish to close your eyes and go into that space within, the presence of love. Love that is ascending prayer and descending grace. Love that is the heartbeat of eternity and time. Love, which is our child within. In the presence of such love, our hearts dissolve the fortress walls so that the beloved may enter. I embrace the beloved in my heart. Or in 1 John 4, it says, "Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God." So as we sit for a moment in the silence, we sit in that love that is from God. And as we come back into the space and time, Meister Eckhart tells us, if I am to know God directly, I must become completely God. And God and I, so that this God and the One become one. I am one with God. I embrace the beloved of my heart. And so it is. We say, Amen and Amen.
Let's continue in this consciousness of prayer and offer a blessing for this spiritual community. Let's declare this affirmation at the top of the screen together.
Chesterton Unity has a lavish, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit.
Told that that's a long-standing affirmation here, and it has worked, it has served this community very well. And so now we offer the prayer for this community. And there's an opportunity to offer financial support to this community and the blessing of our gifts and tithes and love offerings for this community. But in the same way, we bless the thoughts and the words and the actions that we're gonna do when we leave here and what we're gonna do tomorrow, this week. We bless the giving of our time and our talent and our treasure here and everywhere. And in that spirit, we declare the divine
Divine love.
love together.
Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. I am grateful.
We are blessed. We have a number of announcements. Says next Sunday. This is the glitch for this week. Every Sunday, there's a glitch in these slots. You have to find it. So it's today is the healing circle. Saturday, we're having a movie called Come Sunday. There are lots of stories about mainline, ordinary, traditional Christians that become more progressive, that join more open-minded and heretical groups like Unity. Okay, Unity started off as an educational movement to help people understand what was really going on in their church. But once people started getting that idea, they wanted Unity to offer church services themselves. And so this is a story about a really successful evangelical preacher in the Oral Roberts tradition that ended up being a Unity minister, ended up serving Unitarian churches, and it was a difficult transition for his personal and professional life, but really enriching for his spiritual life. It's a good story. And let's close, let's form a circle. Stand and connect with each other. And in so doing, create a wave of energy, of blessing energy that can go around the world and throughout time. There's so many others. We hold all of them in that one concept of us and declare these words of truth for all of us together. The light of
The God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Peace and love be Amen.